Azra with a brand new video. This video is by request from brother Azariah, who is also known as Psalm 119. Was it 103? 104? I'm sorry. Psalm 119 is what we call it, brother. I'm sorry what verse it is. But brother Azariah from Torah Nights Radio. Shalom to the Mashal. Peace to the Torah Nights. And shalom to our brothers and sisters who are dedicated to the Torah in the name of Yahweh. Anyways, so let's get into the lesson real quick. My camera might, fizz out, so let me just try to get through it as quick as I can. All right, so the topic is about Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden, and this is the mystery of it. So we're gonna get down to first off. Adam signifies all mankind. The woman, Eve, signifies the nation of Israel. The serpent signifies the serpent nations. Now, let me break it down to you. If you go into the book of Daniel, it talks about the world rulership of the world ruling Gentile nations who are the serpent people, not literally reptilian. They have the quote unquote this serpent knowledge. It starts from Nimrod all the way on, even today. It manifests itself as what they call Freemasonry or whatever solar phallic wisdom, whatever, right? And these serpent nations are the world ruling kingdoms. Satan, he's like the twisting serpent. So he, through his twisting and turning and whatever, he how do you say this? Nations, the serpent nations such as like Egypt and Assyria and Babylon, Greece, Rome, England, all of them, they all have the serpentine knowledge, which I told you before is what they call the mysteries system, but it's the left-handed side of the mystery system. So Adam again stands for that's the serpent, right? He's the serpent nations, specifically the world ruling kingdoms of the serpent nations. This is also told in the book of Jeremiah, where it says, in the future, nations shall not stream to Baal anymore. Literally Satan, or the wicked world ruling kingdoms. Adam just stands for general mankind, and the woman, of course, stands for the nation of Israel. Now, if you notice in the story that Adam, he didn't. Well, keep him. Let me show you this too as well. Israel is not a different. He's a human being like the rest of them, but remember that Israel, or the Hebrew people, they come from the side, or they come from general mankind. But Yahweh had chosen this woman to bring forth. You know what I'm saying? So if you keep in mind, Israel, the Abraham seed, they had like a certain little points in time of rulership, but for the most part, the serpentine nations have been ruling. And if you keep in mind that Adam is general mankind, who does mankind generally learn from? They learn from the nation of from Israel, especially the Torah, the Bible. The Most High gave this special wisdom to the woman and the serpent, except for the serpent, that's his nature. Like it even says let's say for let me give an example. Let me get to a wild field. Let's see this field here. If you go to Genesis chapter 25 verse 27, it says Esau was a man of the field. Now you notice the field is just this wild place. Just it's not very orderly. There's wild animals and beasts and so forth and so on, right? But it's not orderly like the garden, right? So the serpent nations, they are they're like beasts of the field. They're the serpent people, or serpent nations. They're not literally reptilians like one fucking buffoon is trying to imply. We have these literal reptilian people. David Icke Israelite. Anyway, so Israel was so the meaning of it is an allegory. It's talking about man was in this state of he's like an angelic state, as it states in what is it, Psalm 8, chapter 8, verse 5, it says, man was made a little lower or a little, less than the angels. So Genesis, what is it, chapter 2, is basically telling you this. It's saying mankind was, like basically like a lower form of angel, not particularly having any knowledge of good or evil. It just was just in a state of just being, right? But it's an allegory. You should not think of this in terms of like they were actually in a garden. Okay, like it's an allegory, and it's also dealing with like it's, remember, the Torah is manifold. It's layer upon layer of allegorical and parabolic teachings. So it's not like you should be looking at this like literally like they were Adam and Eve were like the only two people. No, it's an allegory for the rest of the story. So when the Most High said, "Don't eat from the tree of good and evil, and what is it, life and good and evil, a knowledge of good and evil, life and death." Let's get to this real quick. Hold on. You see the two trees, right? I always say this. If you get to the Hebrew word for the word tree or wood, it's the word atz. The word atz translates as counsel. Counsel means like advice or things, such as like the serpent nations, they eat of the counsel of wickedness. Okay? Now, Israel, or the chosen people and mankind in general, had not eaten of this counsel of evil. And it says, but when they did eat of it, that lofty estate that they were in. Remember, a garden. Let me show you what a garden is like. Give me 1 second. A garden is orderly. Like they didn't have any. Everything was orderly. The Most High had he everything was orderly. There's an example of this in Deuteronomy. I'm sorry, it's Deuteronomy 11 verse 10. Give me 1 second. Deuteronomy 11 verse 10. Let me put my marker here real quick. Let me get to that. Deuteronomy 11 verse 10. Bear with me for a second, you guys. Deuteronomy 11 verse 10. All right. Let me see. Still recording. All right, cool. Deuteronomy 11 verse 10. For the land in which you come to possess it, it is not like the land of Egypt that you left, where you would plant your seed and water it on foot like a vegetable garden. But the land to which you cross over to possess it, it is a land of mountains and valleys. From the rain of heaven it drinks water, a land that Yahweh your God seeks out. The eyes of Yahweh your God are upon it from the beginning of the year to year's end. All right, now, so let me show you something real quick. You're thinking, don't think in terms of an actual, you can think that way if you like, but I'm saying, keep in mind how the Torah is made. This is talking about the mind, the mind state that man was in. The mind state, such as like, the heavenly Adam of the east, Quadaman, Yahweh breathed the nashama into man, and man became a living soul. But the word nashama means intellectual wisdom, not like the he breathed in the rawak, like the wind or the air into him. It's talking about he breathed in the nashama, which is like intellect or divine intellect, inspiration, into his nose, mouth, face, right? The trees and bushes, shayak, which is the same word where you get the word Messiah from. But this word means bush or plants, to ponder, to meditate, to ponder, to converse, to contemplate, to communicate, to reflect, to meditate, to pray. Herbs, ashab, to glisten, grass, ashaf, to be sleek, glassy, polish, to purpose, to think, to cogitate, to form in the mind. So this garden that Genesis is speaking about is really talking about the mind. And I'm going to show you this. Like, look, it's really talking about in the mind. Let me give you another example again. It said Esau was a man of the field. If you look up the Hebrew word for the word field, the word is shadah or shad. If you look at that word also translates as devils or demon. It said that Esau comes from Mount Shayar, which means, like he-goat, demon or devil. So what do you see today? Esau manifest the prophecy of the Torah. He is a man of the devil. Shayar means he-goat. What do you see Baphomet? Baphomet is the he-goat. Like he worships the penis. He's the serpent people. But it's not one particular quote unquote nation. It was many world ruling nations who harnessed this quote unquote council of evil, and this is thus they were given their time to rule. Let's go back. I'm gonna get to that that land. Hold on, get this back. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to find. All right, you see this here? Remember, this is that Deuteronomy where he said, you know what I'm saying? For the land to which you come to possess it, or this mind state. Let me get it. This mind state, the upper waters, so forth and so on. I'm showing you. I'm showing you. Look, lamb, sheep. White man's the goat. Hold on. Lamb, sheep, goat. This mind state that you come to, remember, they were in Egypt. They had to like cross over into the land. Where your third eye. That's your Debar, your holy of holies. But it's the mind state. So this land that you come across is filled with mountains, which the word is hara, which also means a womb, or to give, to like a belly, to give birth. Hara. It also means quickly. A land of valleys, which means like a high place that point upward, and in between is water. Would you know that water means teachings or flowing or Torah, right? You got your trees, which are your counsel. You got your plants and shrubbery and so forth and so on. Also, the Most High said this mind state that you would be in would be like a land flowing with milk and honey. Now, when Israel was in Egypt, he was in a state of affliction. And the word matzaraya means affliction or cramped. Cramped means stupidity, it's spiritual ignorance. It doesn't literally mean Israel was cramped in this land. It means speaking allegorically, for they were like in mental slavery, and mental bondage, right? But the Most High was like, okay, I'm going to get you out of that. I'm going to bring you to a whole nother land. It's going to be a mind state, or a land of milk and honey. You know that milk is substance. So you're going to go into this mind state of substance. And you know that honey is a food for healing and sweetness and enjoyment. Not affliction and crampedness in Egypt, but substance and healing, sweetness, and enjoyment. So, do you know what I'm saying? So the Torah is, we're not in the physical land of Israel right now, but when you take the Torah upon yourself, as Yahweh always says, if you meditate on this night and day, something happens to you. You cross over from Egypt to the Holy Land. And the Torah is like healing. I think this is in Isaiah chapter 28. It says, this land of Israel is the true rest. They didn't get any rest in the land of Egypt with all the affliction. Hold on, give me 1 second, right? I'm showing you the Ark of the Covenant is, so people say things like, well, am I going to get to heaven? Well, I need to pull up another picture real quick. Just bear with me for a second. Let's say the blue sky and clouds. All right, see that there? The blue. Let's pick this one. It's a beautiful picture, right? The blue sky and clouds. This is called the heavens, right? So you don't die and go to heaven. You live and go to heaven. You enter the kingdom of heaven while you're alive. This is what Yahushua was teaching this as well. So remember in Deuteronomy it said that what? It said, but the land you cross over to possess, it is a land of mountains and valleys. From the rain of heaven it drinks water. So clouds signifying the presence of Yahweh, and the clouds are white, signifying purity, like the lamb, like the snowflake, like the wool, things like that, right? The sun, purity. Then you see like the upper waters is the vapor. Okay, you have the lower waters on the ground, and you have the upper waters, and they are separated. So what happens? The clouds also rain down this water upon this land. So this is like thinking, if you think in terms of mentally, watch. The upper waters, right? Heaven is in the mind, and so is hell. You were in hell when you were in Egypt. And you don't have to physically be in Egypt to be in hell. You are like, you're in it now. People who are like let's say like the Egyptian Negroes, right? They don't have any real rest, because studying that bullshit don't give you spiritual rest. Them niggas are in affliction. Like, like they don't understand nothing. The Torah gives you rest. It's a mind state of a guarded mind state. When you take on the Torah, your mind is like a garden. Things are orderly. How it rains down water, things produce, your thoughts and things produce. You got beautiful trees and, excuse me, herbs and grass and so forth and so on, right? You're not like, let's see, let me watch this. You're not like that. Remember what the Yahweh said? He was like, hold on. Let's get it again. For the land which you come to possess, it is not like the land of Egypt that you left, where you would plant your seed and water it on foot like a vegetable garden, like where you had to do the work. Yahweh didn't rain down the holy teachings so that your mind state would be like this. No, this is why Egyptians were fucking retarded. They would bury themselves with with their riches and slaves and shit because they were fucking retarded. Okay, like they didn't. I'm not. That's just how it goes. They were retarded. And for those of you who didn't know, the Nile and all that just simply stands for, because remember, these are the serpent people, right? They're worshiping the penis. So the Nile was symbolic of Osiris's semen. I don't know if you knew that, but that's essentially what it is. And then they drink of that. So you know what that means. Put it together, man. Do the simple math. They're drinking the teachings of the Nile, which is nothing but the semen of Osiris. So, like, what are they really doing? This is why Yah took Moses out of Egypt. And this is why when Pharaoh said, okay, go sacrifice to your God in the land, they were like, no way. We got to, like, travel a 3-day journey, which are your 3 initiatory steps. We ain't going to sacrifice to our God, offer ourselves in this shithole land. Because and it says we will not offer the abomination of Egypt to Yahweh in the land. The abomination, what do you know what it's talking about? The penis. These 3 pyramids signify the penis. You don't know that. They're aligned with Orion's belt, but they signify the penis. You didn't know that. But I'm telling you, the Masonic secrets and the serpentine bullshit. But let's get back to the garden. To the garden real quick. Let's get back. And keep in mind, it said to bind these upon, let them be an ornament between your eyes. Obviously, as I'm telling you, that this is talking about the mind. Heaven and hell are in the mind. Life and death, mentally dead or mentally come to life. Moses said, I lay before you life and death. Let's keep going. Let's get back to Genesis real quick. Genesis chapter 2. I want to show you something. All right, so you saw all that, right? Let me show you something. There's these four rivers that come forth out of Eden, right? The 4 rivers. Now, you can look at that literally, and it's not going to help you very much. But if you think about it allegorically and spiritually, you will see that it's talking about in the mind as well, because the word for river in Hebrew is the word Nahar, which is my daughter's name, Nahara, or one of my daughters. The other one's Nazarah, but whatever, it's not important. Anyway, so Nahar means rivers, but it also means what? Light or brightness, like illumination, illuminated, spiritual wisdom. And it ain't talking about the left-handed, it means like right-handed. So let me show you something real quick. So the watch. The heads or chief points of illumination or wisdom of Nahayar, the rivers, from the tended guarded mind state, which is called the tended or guarded mind state. Remember, the angel was in the garden flashing that sword around. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's the holy mind state, set apart mind state. So from the west is the word Fashayawan, but they call it in you get the Pishan, but it's Fayashawan, and it signifies west, and it means to spread out, to scatter, to grow, to increase. From the land of Havilah, which is Kawayala, means circle, fear, tremble, or hope. So you have, we get to the second one is Gayakawan, which means a stream or rushing forth or to strive, to gush forth a fountain, The east is Karakal, which they call it, sorry. Hidekel, but it's kadakal. It means strong, prickly, to plant, to thorn. Now these I'm sorry, and then you have farath, which means fruitfulness. Now these four rivers are all signifying what? One is like fear and trembling for the Most High. The other one is to strive to pour forth for the Most High. The other one is being fruitful in thought to the Most High. What's the other one? I'm sorry, missing the other. I'm sorry. Oh, and kadakal means to sting or to be prickly or to plant or a thorn, right? This is the same thing like when Moses was walking and he saw the burning bush. You know that bushes have thorns, and the bush was on fire, but it wasn't consumed. Allegorically, what that's saying to you, the word for bush is sanah. If you were to spell this backward, it gives you, Hebrew works forward, backwards. You can rearrange the words, give you the quality of the object or subject that it's speaking about. It's talking about Moses was walking about. He was still in that Egyptian, mind state, whatever. He's still, whatever, right? He saw the burning bush. Bush generally have prickers and thorns. When you prick and thorn something, you pay attention. You like focus because you're like, ow, and you like focus on the part that stings. So these things are allegorical, dealing with the self. You hear stupid stories about like, oh, Eve was sleeping with the serpent. No, that's not at all what it's talking about. That's some horse shit that niggas are coming up with. All right, let me show you this real quick. So, all right. So remember, you get your four rivers of illumination, which mean light. Now, keep in mind too. I'm gonna show you. Keep in mind these four rivers, right? These are also your four directions of your so-called solar cross, which Israel is. He's on this like cross. He's in a crucible of affliction. Okay, when he's in, this is why you see it here. Remember, you have six steps there. When you unfold a box or a cube, it unfolds into a quote-unquote cross, which is basically your four cardinal directions, right? Which is basically the temple. It's the man. It's the temple man. Look at that. Look at this so-called cross here. And I already showed you again. You got your four cardinal directions. You got Israel on here, who's like half dead, half alive, blind in one eye, seeing in the other. You got the moon there for reflection. He's the sun because he's like physically he's in the grave. So basically you get it what it is, right? So that you got your 12 seasons, which are your 12 tribes of Israel. Which keep in mind, you're probably remember the people who are not initiated. They're like, oh, the Bible is just a book talking about astrology. No, it's not. These niggas are dum-dums. They don't know that Israel is the heavenly man. You have the carnal man, and you have the earthly man, and you have the heavenly man. If I go to the book of Daniel, chapter 7, what does it say? It says, the Son of Man, and it's talking about the nation of Israel, came to the one who ancient of days. You know what I'm saying? Yahushua taught this when he said, and you will see the Son of Man coming with great power and glory, coming with the clouds of heaven. He's not talking about himself. He's talking about you. When you understand the Torah, you will understand. You go to heaven. You become a heavenly man. You are a man of the heavens, not a man of the earth. Which clearly Adam, the word Adam, Adamah, means like earthly, right? Then you have like the dry land, which is the word labash, labawash, which is another word for like shame. The earthly shameful man. So remember, it's allegorical. You got the man whose mind state is with the mountains and the streams and the valleys, and the plush, the lush garden. The pouring water from heaven that just keeps flowing, but you don't know where its source comes from. The source comes from the heavens. Yahweh rains down the water, and it waters, irrigates this beautiful land or this beautiful mind state. This is why the Torah comes from the word Yahweh, which means to pour out, like water. Where Yahweh says that he separated the lower waters from the upper waters, right? All right. Then you got your man of the field, or the devil, which is Esau. And you see here wild animals are in here. It's not arranged and like a garden. Shit's growing wild. it said that Jacob was a man of the tabernacle, or the tents, where you already know what the tabernacle is. You know what that is. Jacob was a man of this, but Esau is a man of that. So it showed you, right off the rip. The serpent nations, the same way. They, look, this Yahweh's not raining down. There's no plush irrigation here. They had to actually do work themselves to do it, because Yahweh's not, he didn't make Egypt to be. But this is a mind state. This is your Sarah Suit and Setis, your Saw Netters, and in them. They think that they're deep in whatever whack mysteries they have. They don't know anything about the mysteries. Their mysteries are whack. Yahweh didn't give the serpent nation and their council of evil real illumination, because he separated the good and the bad, or the right and the wrong. You know what I'm saying? He separated them. The falsehood and truth. He separated them. That's why it's called set apart, or holy. Anyone who's in this mind state, you're done. Nigga, you don't know anything. You literally look at everything literally from this perspective. You're not a spiritual man. You are a carnal man. This is why the dum-dums used to bury themselves with slaves and shit. You know what I'm saying? And gold and shit, because they didn't know anything about the afterlife. They didn't know anything about the Creator. This is why they had idols and shit. The most religious people on earth with idols, praying to them, bowing to them. They keep in mind what the serpent said in here. Genesis chapter 2, verse 4. Let's get to what is this? Chapter 2 or chapter 3? I'm sorry. Now the serpent was cunning beyond any of the beasts of the field that Yahweh had made. He said to the woman, "Did perhaps God say, you shall not eat of the tree of the garden, of any tree of the garden?" The woman said to the serpent, "Of the fruit of any tree of the garden we may eat, or of the works of the counsel of the garden we may internalize." In other words, what she's saying, of the good things, of good counsel we may internalize. The serpent was like, well, hold on. Sorry, I'm trying to get at the tree. Okay, let's see if we can get a tree of evil in here. Let's say this is the right hand tree, the tree of knowledge of good and the knowledge of evil. The serpent was like, well, if you eat this, you know what I'm saying? If you eat of this, you will know this knowledge that you didn't, that Yahweh had kept from you, because Israel did not have the counsel of evil. So the woman, or us, the people, begin to of course, what do we do? What the Torah tells you? They start to go about and worship and learn the counsel of the heathen, and not even just like Adam, the normal people, the average. No, the serpent wisdom. We learned that shit. Niggas started it tells you in the book of Ezekiel, they were bowing down to the sun. They were making calves. All these calves and things and bulls and goats and all these things are all knowledge of evil, because the Egyptians understood the mystery of generation. They didn't know who was creating it, but they understood the principles of creation, such as the man and the woman, and the sun, how it has to do with the man. They understood we all knew males get morning wood at a certain point in time, especially young men. You get the morning wood at sunrise. Okay, it's just natural. You're not thinking about women. It just fucking just happens. It's because man is in tune with the sun. The woman is in tune with the moon and the earth and things, like that. So we're connected with those cycles. So they understood these principles. Now they understood the principles. They didn't understand the Creator. So they began to make idols for themselves, and they began to because there was no restraint with them. They didn't have laws that said, real laws to enforce. They didn't believe in, they made stupid shit up like ma'at. Basically, you could do whatever the fuck you wanted to do, but you just had to say that before you entered the afterlife. But they didn't know anything about the afterlife. The Most High never communicated to Egypt about anything. It's just, they were dum-dums. So the serpent was like, if you eat it, your eyes will be open and you will be like gods, knowing good and evil. You'll be like the Elohim, or the angels, knowing good and evil, because the angels understand the counsel of good and evil, right? But early man did not understand that. So listen, when the serpent said this to the woman, I'm trying to find Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, the land of Eden. Can we find that? I'm sorry. Give me a second. I was trying to find. I had a picture of them. Okay, let's just go back to here. All right, let's just use these guys for a good example, right? What was I saying? I'm sorry. Oh, okay. So this is like how ill the Torah is. When they internalized this counsel of evil, their eyes were open. It was open to the counsel of evil, into like there's a power in it. I told you there's a power in both. And like you have a stick, you have one end and you have the other end. So they internalized it, and what happened was their eyes were open to what the serpent nations knew. But what happened was they fell from their lofty estate, and they became blind. And this is what is signified by death. They became blind. They were like seeing in one aspect and blind in the other. Remember, it like flip-flop. Because before, I'm sorry, where were they at? I'm sorry. Okay. Remember, before they were seeing blind, and then when they ate of the fruit, they became blind seeing. If you know what I mean, like they fell. They fell from that lofty estate, that angelic estate, and became earthly. And this is why Yahweh was like, you ate of it, and it was like, you, especially to them, to mankind, you're gonna have to like work the field to get your produce. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna have to work the field to like get your spiritual produce. And it said to the woman, you're gonna like, your craving is always gonna be to the man, to the nations. This is why Israel always wanted a king like the other nations. They wanted to be like the other nations. They always said that. They always wanted to be like the other nations. Their desire was to be like the other people. Which look at today. Does Jay-Z and them not wish to be like the white man? Do like only us who I'm not even saying just Torah Israelites. Even let's say like even GMS or ISPK or whatever. Well, let's just use GMS for like One West, because as far as I'm concerned, far as scripturally, for like One West dudes, and I'm not talking Sakari sit downs. Like, I'm talking about that immediate One West dude. I would say GMS is the more scripturally adept than the rest of them. Like IUIC and GOCC, like them niggas are literally a joke. Like literally, like there's like I don't even consider them niggas even Israelites. Those are Christians. But anyways, so even let's say like GMS and them, I'm just using them as an example. They understand the concept of leave. They don't want to be with. They don't want to, like Proverbs tells you, don't go to the strange woman. It ain't talking about little foreign women. It's talking about their philosophies and the way they live. Because it said that her desire would be for her husband, but the word is man, or like, remember, Adam is mankind. The woman is Israel. She always wants to be like the nations. And this is where this comes in. So anyways, they both ate of the fruit of the wicked, and they became blind to the holy, the holiness, or that innocent thing they were in. So what happened? They like begin to like, they were naked. They knew that they were like naked. They like fell from this lofty estate to this lower carnal earthly estate, and then begin to like understand that they were like naked. Now remember, the word naked also means blind. They were like blinded. They were like, like, oh shit, like what happened? We're not in that holy estate anymore. You're like carnal. Now keep in mind, remember what the serpent's whole thing is, right? His whole thing is the mystery system. He understands the power of generation, whatever, right? So this is why, and they, they had the old faggot temples and whore temples where they, they had to like have, I forgot, I don't know the term for it. You know what I'm talking about. Anyone who studies ancient history knows that the ancient cultures used to have whorehouse temples where there would be like a temple prostitute, and the men would come in and sleep with her, and they were like eunuchs, and they were like male prostitutes, and they were it was all in honor of their like sexual fertility gods. This is why they sewed fig leaves about them, because they understood what the serpent people were talking about, or they understood that we had no so they sewed fig leaves around their private areas, understanding the power of generation of their generative organs, which the serpent people worship, like Freemasons and every other fucking heathen wicked serpent nation people. All of them, from all of them, all the serpent people all have the same sexual organ worship, and they ascribe it to gods, which are they ascribe to the sun and the moon and the stars and whatever else they can ascribe their gods to. Brother Kodash even gave a lesson on it, the host of heaven. I'm just breaking it down even more, telling you what the mystery of the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve is. All right, so just keep going. So their eyes were open, and they realized that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves, made themselves aprons. This is what you see Masons covering up themselves with aprons over their loins with the G, which stands for generation or generative. So remember, they ascribe this shit to the heavenly host, the sun, the moon, the stars, all that, whatever. So they're astrologers, remember that? Remember Daniel and he was in Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, and remember Pharaoh's astrologers and enchanters. This is what I'm telling you. This is the secret of all that. We're still recording? All right, cool. All right. So Yah called out to the man and said to him, "Where are you?" And the man said, "I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid because I am naked, so I hid." So wait a minute. Was Adam and Eve, were they literally in a garden, like an actual little garden, or is this talking about in their mind? Because the word garden is the word gan, and the word gan means tended or guarded or hedged about. This is where you get the word magan, which means a shield. Okay? They realized that they were like naked. They like fell from their lofty estate of their angelic estate. They didn't internalize the counsel of evil, or eating the fruit or the works thereof of it. Now, when you break down the Hebrew and all that of all this, when you realize it, she learned the art of abortion, a whole bunch of sexual fertility, magic, sex magic, and abortion, and all that shit. She learned all that shit. We learned all that shit. That's what we stand for. So hold on, give me 1 second. So the nations were like, the woman gave me of the of the fruit, and so I ate. So who are, let's say, who is in contact even to this day, the nations still read our book, right? So this is fulfilling itself. The nations read the book, though they're not the people, they're not the woman, they're mankind. They read our book, right? And then they ascribe. All I do is pull up a Jesus, and I'm not talking about the Torah teacher. I'm talking about Gentile Jesus penis, who is nothing but a fucking sex dick fertility demon. Okay, but they use our book for that. Same thing they do in Freemasonry. There's a Freemasonic Bible. So the nations eat of our, like mankind is gonna, but the nations don't have the proper counsel of the Torah. This is why you can go into book of chapter of Proverbs, or I'm sorry, book of Proverbs chapter 3. It says the Torah is a tree of life to those who can grasp it. So all this is, all this is like allegorical. How it was going to, he had already planned out life, how it was going to work out. But it's just giving you an illustration or a narration of a process so that you can like meditate on it. That yes, these things were going to happen because Yahweh had already planned these things. So, but Genesis is just telling you, it's just trying to give you a picture so you can understand like why or why it happened, or why it's like this, or because this whole Genesis story basically plays itself out in life today to this very point. All right. So the white man and all the serpent people says, you are accursed beyond all cattle and beyond all beasts of the field. Upon your belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. Confusion. Dust is like confusion or a low estate. Like, don't think because the Egyptians and the Assyrians and the Babylonians and the white man and whoever else, because they rule the world, like they're still in a state of confusion. Like every time the Most High wipes out their nations, and they can't prevent it. Even though the white man's trying his best to make a new world order, he's trying to get around his destruction. He's still in the dust. You're like, he's fucking confused. He's in a fall from his own doing. This is how fucking stupid he is. The Most High is like, you can't fathom his understanding. And neither can the stupid white man. He's a dumbass. Anyways, so thorns and thistles shall sprout for you. You shall eat the herb of the field, and by the sweat of your brow you shall eat the bread until you return to the ground for which you were taken. You know what I'm saying? Like the Most High is not raining down the heavenly teachings for them. Okay, basically, they're you're on your own, and that's what it is, and that's how it plays itself out today. Man, the other nations besides Israel and besides the serpent nations, let's give an example. The mainstream Japanese, since I'm in Japan, let's use them. They are like mankind. They are Adam. They don't have the heavenly teaching, the Torah. And if you try to explain it to them, their soul they cannot see it. Now they do have an understanding of right and wrong, such as like Japan's very, very strict about nakedness and women showing their skin and all that shit. Like that shit's like frowned upon. They don't like that. Wearing shoes in the house and things like that, they know. Harry Truman literally said, we're going to ruin Japan by introducing over sexualizing the population and bringing in drugs and shit. And that's what they literally do. I can show you a sheet right now that shows you how the white man has it set up in Japan, where he introduces his serpentine bullshit on the population. Here it is right here. Anybody who understands Japanese can see, what is this? I think Rockefellers, Rothschilds. Then you got like the emperor or whatever who holds no power. Then if you look down here, I'm sorry, look, you see right here, who is that? CIA, CFR. I forgot which one this is. And then it goes all the way on down to the society. Okay? You got your Yakuza's here. You got your bank right there. You got your I think this is the government. You got your what do you call it? Radiation, not radiation. Your nuclear facility. You got your different weirdo religions up in here. And who controls all of that? You got your media, all this. Look, TBS, all that shit. Look who controls that directly. Look who controls that. Rothschilds, the serpent nations got Japan. Japan got bitten by the serpent. But I'm just using them as an example of they are just regular mankind. They don't have any knowledge of the divine wisdom. Now, so this is the story of or the meaning of Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden, and this is the mystery of it. Eve is the nation of Israel. Let me get another scripture out real quick. I'm going to show you. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 49. Isaiah chapter 49. Bear with me. Isaiah 49. Watch this. The woman, Eve, is Israel. Zion, she's also known by the woman. Remember, the womb, so forth and so on, right? Watch this. Zion said, Yahweh has forsaken me. My Lord has forgotten me. Can a woman forget her baby or not feel compassion for the child of her womb? Even these may forget, but I will not forget you. Behold, I have engraved you upon my palms. Your walls are always before me, or before me always. Your children will hasten to return, and your ruiners and your destroyers will leave you. Raise your eyes all around and see. They have all gathered, they have all come to you. As I live, the word of Yahweh, I swear that you will clothe yourself with them all like jewelry and adorn yourself like a bride. You will clothe yourself with them all like jewelry and adorn yourself like a bride. Remember, they knew they were naked. Let's keep it going. Verse 20. The children whom you have been bereaved, or, bereaved means being barren. Because right now Zion is basically in the mind, but as a physical state, like we're not in the land right now. So that's why it says Zion, or, the land is laying desolate for a long time, even though there are other people who live there, but Yahweh's eyes are not upon that land now, because they're upon it. They're the unholy ones. So it's as if he's not even paying attention to that land right now until the people return back. The children whom you've been bereaved will yet say in your ears, the place is too crowded for me. Move aside from me that I may dwell. And you will say in your heart, who has begotten me these? For I have been bereaved and alone, in exile and a wanderer. So who has reared these? Behold, I have been left by myself. Where are these from? Eve is the nation of Israel. She's Zion. Let's get one more scripture. Let's get to Isaiah chapter 66, verse 7 real quick. Bear with me. Isaiah chapter 66, verse 7. Before she even feels her labor pains, she will give birth. Before any travail comes to her, she will deliver a son. Who has heard such as this? Who has seen such as these? Has a land... A what? Has a land gone through labor in one day? Has a nation ever been born at one time, as Zion went through her labor and gave birth to her children? Shall I bring a woman to the birth stool and not have her give birth, says Yahweh? Shall I, who caused birth, hold it back, says your God? Be glad in Jerusalem and rejoice in her, all you who love her. Exult with her in exultation, for all of you who mourn for her. See? The woman, Zion, is Eve. She's the nation of Israel. I want to show you something real quick. I think that might be it. Yeah. And with that, I guess I'm done, man. Shout out to Brother Azariah. I hope that this clears up things for everyone. The Torah is the right hand side mystery book for Israel. Some dudes tend to forsake it for another woman with Paul's teachings. I don't want to get into it, but Paul calls the Torah the woman that's in slavery, and he calls whatever his philosophy the woman that is free and above. But clearly, anybody, you already know what it is. He calls the Torah the hatred. So Yahweh Shah, the Torah teacher, definitely wouldn't have agreed with that. So with that, Israel, shalom to the knights. And that's what it is. All right, shalom.